so we are still on the creditable withholding tax system, and I'd like to emphasize and to discuss these top withholding agents. So this is very crucial, especially today, because a lot of taxpayers are being classified as top withholding agents, but they failed to comply with the BAR's regulation. So let us first identify who are these top withholding agents. So a top withholding agent shall include the following. We have those which are classified and duly notified by the commissioner as either any of the following unless previously classified as such or had already ceased in business operations. So number one, a top withholding agent is a large taxpayer under Revenue Regulation number 1-98 as amended, and those who are classified as top 20,000 private corporations under the Revenue Regulations number 6-2009, or those top 5,000 individuals under Revenue Regulation 6-2009. So again, these people are considered as top withholding agents. So the BAR will notify you if you are one of them. So you do not assume that you are a large taxpayer unless you are notified by the BAR. Also, a top withholding agent includes a taxpayer or taxpayers identified and included as medium taxpayers and those under the Taxpayer Account Management Program or the TAMP. So these people, the large taxpayers and the medium taxpayers, are considered as top withholding agents. Okay, so why do we need to discuss these things? Because income payments made by any top withholding agents to their local or resident supplier of goods or services, including non-resident aliens engaged in trade or business in the Philippines, shall be subject to the following tax rates. So, when these top withholding agents purchase goods or services from their local suppliers, they will deduct and withhold certain rate. Okay, so if the supplier of goods is, of course, it's in goods, so the top withholding agent will withhold 1%. But if it's a supplier of service, then the top withholding agent will deduct and withhold 2%. So say, for example, a company is a withholding agent, a top withholding agent. And then during the year, it purchased from B company of goods. Okay, so any payments made by A company to B company as a payment for the purchase of goods will be subject to 1% 1% withholding tax rate. Okay? So for example, this is the top withholding agent. It will acquire services or goods from their local or resident supplier of goods or service. So any payment made by the withholding agents to their suppliers will be deducted by 1% or 2% before paying. So if you are the supplier and then you are expecting an amount of 100,000 for the goods, you will not receive the entire 100,000, but rather only 99,000 because there's a tax withheld by the top withholding agent. Okay? So when we say local resident suppliers of goods or suppliers of services, these pertain to a supplier from whom any of the top withholding agents regularly makes its purchase of goods or services. So there must be a regular transaction between the top withholding agent and their supplier. So when we say local or regular supplier, this does not include a casual purchase. When you say casual purchase, it means only once or twice. Okay, so that is a purchase made by from a non-regular supplier and oftentimes involving a single purchase. So you cannot say that your supplier is a regular supplier if you have only transacted once or twice in a year. Okay? So if that supplier is not regular, then you should not withhold a tax. Okay, so if you have only transacted from that supplier, let's say for about 3 times only in a year, then you don't have to withhold a tax because that supplier is not a regular supplier. And the withholding tax applies only if the supplier is a regular supplier. However, any single purchase which involves 10,000 pesos or more shall be subject to withholding tax under this subsection. So say for example, you are a withholding agent, a top withholding agent, and then you purchase goods from a new supplier for once only. Okay? And then the amount of purchase is only 5,000 pesos. Then you as a withholding agent would not withhold any tax. Because first, that supplier is not regular supplier and you have only transacted once in a year. And then the amount involved is only 5,000. Okay, so you are not going to withhold any tax from that. However, if the amount involved is 10,000 or more, even if it's a single purchase, then you must withhold 1% or 2%. 1% if goods and 2% if service. Okay, so even if the supplier is not regular, again, even if it's a casual purchase or a casual transaction, but if the amount involved is more 10,000 or more than 10,000, then you should withhold a tax if you are a withholding agent. So the term regular suppliers refer to suppliers who are engaged in business or exercise of profession or calling with whom the taxpayer buyer or the withholding agent has transacted at least 6 transactions regardless of any amounts per transaction either in the previous year or current year. So to be considered as a regular supplier, you must have transacted from these people at least 6 times in a year. So if that supplier you purchased your goods with, you have only transacted that, for example, for 5 times, then that is not a withholding. That is not a regular supplier. Therefore, do not withhold anything. But if it's your 6 times or 7 times, then you should withhold, regardless of the amount involved. Okay? So, when shall the top withholding agents withhold 1% or 2%? So, to summarize these things, so when will the taxpayer or when should the top withholding agents withhold 1% or 2%? First, when the supplier is a regular supplier, meaning to say it's the supplier is you have always transacted from that supplier. Or when the top withholding agent has transacted with the same supplier for at least 6 times in any given year, regardless of the amount involved per transaction. Or when the top withholding agent has transacted with such supplier once or twice, as in the case of casual transaction, but the amount involved on such transaction is 10,000 or more. So these are the 3 conditions when should a top withholding agent withhold 1% or 2%. Illustration. ABC Company is a top withholding agent, and during the year 2020, it purchased merchandise from XYZ Company, a regular domestic supplier. Take note, it's a regular domestic supplier. XYZ Company billed a total amount of 2,240,000 inclusive of the VAT. So this amount is already VAT inclusive, meaning the VAT is already there. How much must ABC Company pay to XYZ Company? So let us first extract the gross amount exclusive of the VAT before we can multiply by 1%. 1% because this is a purchase of merchandise. Okay. So our solution would be the billed amount. We have 2,240,000 divided by, why should we divide by 112%? When you divide the amount inclusive of the VAT by 112%, you will get the gross amount exclusive of the VAT, meaning without the VAT. So we need to divide that by 112%. Okay? Then after that, you will multiply by 1. Why 1%? Because it is a merchandise, goods. So therefore, the creditable withholding tax to be deducted is 20,000 pesos. So this withholding tax should be remitted by the company to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So how much is the payment? So ABC company shall pay XYZ company an amount of 2,220,000, that is 2,240,000 minus the creditable withholding tax of 20,000 pesos. Okay? So recall that in this discussion, we have mentioned that there are three withholding taxes in the Philippines. First, we have the final withholding tax system, and that is applicable to passive incomes derived in the Philippines. We also have second, creditable withholding taxes. And the third, we have withholding tax and compensation. So let's now proceed to the third withholding tax, and that is on compensation. So this withholding tax is imposed on the employee for his compensation income received from his employer. This is to ensure that the employee is correctly paying his tax. Okay? And then also to ensure that the employer is correctly paying their employees. Because when the employer would not deduct any tax from their employees, then how could the BR know that these employers are actually paying their employees well? Okay? So also, non-withholding of the tax prohibits the employer from claiming deductions for salaries expense. So remember that the employer will claim any payments made to their employees as salaries expense. Okay? So, on the part of the employee, this is a compensation income. But on the part of the employer, this is a salary expense. So, when the employer failed to withhold taxes on the salaries paid to their employees, these employers cannot deduct or are not allowed to deduct these salaries expense on their income tax return. So meaning to say, when they cannot deduct this as salaries expense, their net income would tend to increase. And when the income is higher, the tax is also higher, right? So the employer must always ensure that they have correctly withheld the taxes from their employees so that they can also declare these salaries expense on their income tax return. So when they have higher salaries, they will get lower income. And when they have lower income, it means lower income tax, right? So there are two possible solutions when computing the employees withholding tax on their compensation income. First, we can use the monthly withholding tax, or we can use the annualized income tax. So we will show you how these two solutions are done, and also I will show you the income tax table that is used when computing withholding taxes on compensation. So let's have first the monthly withholding tax. So in this solution, we will just compute the monthly net income. So we have the monthly basic salary, less mandatory contributions. We have SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig contributions. So, Sid's monthly income before withholding tax is 28,900. So, this is actually his monthly net income, okay, before the tax. That's 28,900. So, this is the revised withholding tax table as prescribed by the BAR. So, you can see it's messy actually. So, what we are looking here is that, remember, Sid's monthly income is 28,900. So we will look on the monthly column, a monthly row. So remember, we can have daily or weekly or semi-monthly, but since the given data is monthly, then we will use the monthly. Okay, so we have there monthly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We also have compensation level, that's CL, of 2833, and so on. So the next thing is to find where this 28,900 belongs. So we cannot use number 3 because it said the compensation level is 33,333. Okay, and Sid's monthly income is only 28,900. So we will use this 20,833 because it is where Sid's monthly income belongs. Okay, again, we cannot use number 3 or number 4 or number 5 and 6 because Sid's monthly income is lower than these figures. We cannot also use number 1 because it said 20,833 and below. So that's not the correct uh, classification. So we belong here in the second column. Okay? So how do we compute the tax? It is said that the tax is 0 plus 20% over the compensation level. Okay? So the tax for 28,900 is 0 plus 20% over the compensation level. So how do we do this? We have here the Sid's monthly income of 28,900 minus the compensation level, which is 28,833. So we have the excess. And it is said that 20% over or 20% of the excess of the compensation level. So we just multiply by 20%. So we will get the withholding tax on compensation of 1,613.40. So this is the monthly withholding tax to be deducted from Sid's monthly income. Okay, so that would become 28,900 minus 1,613.40. So now let's proceed to the other solution on computing withholding tax and compensation. So what we have just discussed is actually the monthly withholding tax. Okay, so here in the second option or second solution, we will use the annualized income. So remember that we have already computed the monthly income before withholding tax. Okay, so we have computed that a while ago, 2,900. So what we're going to do here is to multiply this by 12 months to get the annual compensation income. So since compensation income in terms of annual, in terms of year, is 346,800. So the next thing is to look this annual compensation income on our tax bracket. So we have here the income tax bracket for the individual citizens, no? So what we're looking here is that where does Sid's annual income falls? So actually it falls on the second row, and that is over 250,000 but not over 400,000 because Sid's annual income, annual compensation income is 346,800. So it is said that when your income falls on this bracket, that 250 over, but not over 400, the tax due should be 20% of the excess over 250,000. So to compute SEED's annual income tax, we would have the annual compensation income, which is 346,800, less the lower limit. The lower limit is the amount in the leftmost side of the tax bracket, which is 250,000. So we have the excess of 96,800. And then we will multiply this amount by 20%. Okay? So this is now our annual income tax. But we are looking for the monthly income withholding tax, not the annual income tax. So what we're going to do is to divide this annual income tax by 12 months. Okay, so 19,316 divided by 12 months, we have the monthly withholding tax and compensation of 1,613.33. So that is actually the same with our previous solution, the monthly bracket. Okay, so though it differs on certain centavos, the other one we have 1,614, but we have here 613.30. It's actually immaterial. Okay, so it's okay. So this is how we compute our withholding tax using the monthly withholding tax and the annualized income tax. Therefore, either solution would derive the same amount of withholding tax. Hence, to compute the net amount paid by ABC to SID, we have the monthly salary, we have less contributions, we have the monthly income before withholding tax of 28,900 less withholding tax and compensation, and that is the net amount received by SID during the year, and that is 27,286.60. Okay, so I hope you learn a lot from this discussion, and I hope you to watch the other videos so you would learn how to fill up an a withholding tax return. Okay, so the next video will show you how to fill up the return using EBR forms. Okay, so thank you for watching.